making sure people are coming in here as well. Yes, so today, just a bit about me is I'm a System 1357 coach. So I've spent countless hours with Scotty, traveling to Sawtell, well, between Sawtell and Sydney, extracting everything that he knows about, because as he retired early through entrepreneurship, and it'd be great to get these systems out there and get more people creating the life that they want. So today is in business, in sales, we're going to be discussing about setting the right price, how to sell the value and get paid more. So today is going to be around street smart sales systems. And the thing I love about this is that it's very much around human behavior and psychology, getting to know, meeting people where they're at, and getting to find their needs and how you can actually help them in their business. So I guess what the objective and goal of today is that we want to open your mind. Just open your mind to learn something new. The stuff today is totally adaptable to what you're currently using. So take the information as you will, and feel free to adapt it to anything that you're currently using at the moment. Today it's an interactive workshop as well, so please engage or ask questions where you want some help. So learn something new, open your mind. And I made some notes here. We want to challenge your thinking too. So we want it to be open and challenge what it is you know. We're here to have an open and honest discussion, and help each other in business. So I'll just leave it over to Scotty. Scotty, if you want to add a bit more into your background. I think there's a couple of new people here, and then we'll get into it.
There is a couple of new people. So I'm happy to get started. And Andrew is absolutely right. You know, part of the job as a facilitator or coach or mentor or educator, on this side of the screen, you know, our job is to really open people's minds and challenge their thinking into what's new and possible, or sometimes validate what they're doing is the right thing to do so they can go forward with that confidence and belief. The other thing today is not a test. So if anyone asks a question, it's not a test. There's no such a thing as the wrong answer. If we ask a question, by all means, it's not a test here. So if I ask a question today, does anyone know what this is? It's not a test. It's just to open your mind and challenge your thinking. So take that into account as we ask questions. So feel free to be involved. There's no wrong answers, but there is some lessons that I definitely want to get out there and teach everyone today. Things that I've used that if you ask me are tried and proven. They're not just tried and proven. They're tried and proved from many successful people around the world. Now, I haven't met everyone here that's on here today. So everyone that has registered and has turned up, thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure to meet you for the first time, some of you. And for those that have come back again, it's great to see you come back again. And we do have, I know, one international, some of them who I don't know, but I definitely know we have one from Canada. So that's definitely good news. Good to see you, Jeanette, all the way from, I think it's midnight or something like that over in Canada. So it's certainly good to have you here. So we normally have a few internationals traditionally, but this one I think is mostly domestic and Australian, and it was targeted at the time zone for Australia. So well done for going the extra mile, Janet. And yeah, it's definitely good to have you here. So as I said, the reason why, and by the way, the chat group. So anyone that's got any questions as we go, one of Andrew's jobs here is the facilitator and the co-host is Andrew's going to look after the chat. So please, if you've got any questions, or you want me to repeat something, put it in the chat group so Andrew can actually take control of that and make sure that we get that answered for you. Today is not for me to do the talking. Today is for you to come along and learn. So put questions in the chat group so that way we can respond to you, or else I might not see it. So is that okay? Everyone cool with that? Put it in the chat group for Andrew to see.
Yeah.
So basically the theme of today was, I've got it written up here. Okay, set the right price, sell a value, and get paid more. There are our 3 subject or topics for today. In actual fact, it's a bit of a, if you put that into a sentence, it actually makes perfect sense. In other words, if you set the right price, you can then sell the value easier and go get paid more. So it's actually a bit of a system within itself, today's subject. So I do want to focus around setting the price. Then I'll talk about selling the value. And if we get all that right, the final one is you should get paid more or more often. So that's the holy grail. That's what everyone wants, right? A little bit more success, a few more transactions, and to get paid more in any business. So before I get started, I'm not sure if everyone's read the book, or got a copy of the book, but the Make More, Do Less, which has now been retitled to Sell More, Make More. Okay, exactly the same content, but it actually says a little bit more what this book is for. It's about what successful people say, do, and when it comes to the art of sales, or as I like to call it, the art of conversations that allow you to get paid more. So if you haven't got the book, I am going to refer to this book today in several places, okay? The other one I am going to quickly refer to is the 5 Systems of Successful People. There's a couple of pages in there. Mostly today is this book though, okay? So if you've got this book, Sell More, Make More, which is the latest version on Amazon and all good bookstores online, or I still have copies of this one, exactly the same content. By all means, if you haven't got one, go get yourself a copy. In some ways, I'd like you to go to Amazon because then you can leave a good book review. But if you buy them off me, I can then sign it and send them to you personally, like I know some people have. So before I get into it, I'll start off with, there's only 3 reasons why people buy. So when it comes to price, most people seem to think, if I say, why do people normally buy products and services? Most people will suggest it's price. And don't get me wrong, we have to set the right price, which I'll get into. But there's only 3 reasons why people buy. Now, anyone that's got their microphone going, you can jump in right now. What do you guys think are the main reasons why people buy? There's only 3, and we can fit them all into the 3 categories. If we take the price, so forget about price, even though that can be a factor, it comes into the 3. Anyone got any suggestions of why they think the 3 reasons are?
Needs.
Needs, perfect, beautiful. I'll write it up, needs. Yeah, why else would someone want to buy a product or service?
Want.
Want? Oh, look at this. Because what we're going to do is discuss what these 3 are. And what's the last one?
Desire.
The easiest one to fulfill. What'd you say?
Desire.
Desire, yeah. That's like a want, so I'll put that in that one.
Invest for investment.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
For investment.
For investment.
Oh, for investment. Sorry. Yeah. Well, that'd be a want or a need. You need to invest or want to invest. Yep. All right. I'll give it to you. What was that?
Prestige.
Prestige. Yep. That'd be a want or a need for sure. The other one, which is actually the easiest person to sell to, is when there's pain. Can everyone see that on the board?
No.
Nope.
You have to turn it around a little bit. Yeah.
Pain. In other words, there's a problem. If there's a problem, we can sell someone something. So if I'm a tire shop and someone gets a flat tire, they have a problem. It's easy for me to sell a service to someone that has a problem. When it's raining, it's easy for me to sell an umbrella. When someone's plumbing's broken down at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's easy for me as a plumber to fulfill that service and go out and fix it at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so if there's a problem or a pain, it's easy. It's a motivator, extreme motivator for someone to buy it now. You know, there's someone in the family sick. I'm going to ring up Qantas or the airport, and I'm going to say, get me a flight to overseas or interstate. I need it now. It doesn't matter how much it costs. Price is no longer important. I just need this right now. So pain is a massive motivator. So whoever said want, okay, I'm going to call that a hotspot rather than a want. Okay, so if someone wants something, and I use guys as a classic example, you know, all the guys out there every one of us, or just about, without generalizing, has bought a set of mags, you know, alloy wheels for our car. Not once did we ever need them for our car. It wasn't a problem. The car still went without those mags, without those performance tires. It still went. But we wanted our car to look better. We had a hot spot. We had a desire, as someone said earlier. Okay, so we went and purchased something because we were motivated to do something that made us feel better. Okay, and you know, my wife will argue that she has to get a haircut every 6 weeks because she needs it, but I'm pretty sure it's because she wants it every 6 weeks as opposed to needing it. Okay, but nonetheless, we all have different burning desires as far as hotspots go. You know, what motivates us to go and do something? A classic one is a phone. You know, they are very good at making the need, creating the hotspot. Okay, I don't really have to have an this one still works, but they'll bring out a better camera or a better interface or something special about the latest phone, which makes us go, I want one. Okay, so that's what they do, which leads me into the third one, which is the needs. Oops, I cut that out. So needs, and needs is a completely different again. In other words, you know, I know I'm going to need a new computer. My computer's starting to get a bit old. I know in some point in time I'm going to need another computer. I know I'm going to need another car. My car's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I know at some point I'm going to need another car. Okay, but it's not a hotspot for me, so I'm not motivated to go change it just yet. And it hasn't broken down, so I'm not going to go and replace it because it's not a problem at the moment. Does that make sense? So needs are something that we know we need, but we're just not motivated or have a problem enough to go and find the money to go and replace that need. But as a salesperson or a company or a business owner, we can actually fulfill that need. Okay, and the way we can fulfill that need is once we establish it, we can do things that put a hotspot out, like package deals. You know, all of a sudden we at a restaurant, we have all you can eat. We put a band on that'll attract people that night. Okay, so we can create that sort of want. You know, I talked about cars with tires earlier. You know, all of a sudden, you know, the local tire dealer has a deal on where he says you get 4 tires for the price of 3. They have a special on a package deal, and all of a sudden the need comes from, oh, I need tires soon, to all of a sudden I'll get it now. Okay, so the good thing about needs is we can fulfill a need. Okay, but unless we got one of these 3, it's irrelevant what your price is. You can't actually have a transaction. Okay, there's never going to be a transaction unless one of those 3 things happen. And like I said, you can look at all the other things like desire, that's want, however you want to word it, that's up to you. But those 3 things need to happen. So once you've established that with your product, with every product you've got, okay, you know what the pain points are, why someone will buy it, because there's a problem. You know how to turn it into a hotspot. Okay, so in other words, what motivates people to buy the product. And you also know how you can create or fulfill needs that they didn't know they had. You've now got a product that you know people are going to want to buy, which leads us into pricing. Okay, and by the way, that there, the 3 reasons why people buy, just if you're writing down notes, is System 15, page 158 of this book. So if you want to read more about that, it's written in the book there. Okay, so the make more, do less, or sell more, make more, same page, same system, System 15. Okay. So then we get into actually how to set the right price. On page 96 of this book, I don't explain it properly, but I introduce it. Okay. So on page 96 of this book, I have a system that all companies use that I talk about just briefly in there, with the system called the business of thirds. And that system is the 3 by 3 by 3 model. 3 by 3 by 3 model. Now, when I explain this, it's going to make perfect sense. Airline companies do it, accommodation industry does it, McDonald's does it, all the big companies do it. And what they do is they have a matrix. Okay, they have a matrix. And that matrix looks like this. I'll have to do this small, but once again, page 96 in the book. So I'll have to do this small, 3 by 3 model. All right, can everyone see that okay? Is it clear? Hopefully it's clear enough. So what we end up over here is, when it comes to pricing, we need to know what our small, medium, and large pricing is. And all of a sudden, oh, there's McDonald's. Yeah, you're right. Every successful business finds out what their products are in small, medium, and large. Now, you can have more than 3. They have extra large. You can have more than 3, but nonetheless, as a business, you've got to think of 3. The car industry, we have an introduction model, we have a mid model, we have a top of the line model. Okay. Every successful business does it. Airlines, we have economy, we have business class, we have first class. Okay. So we have these things, right? They have options for people. In other words, what we're looking at with this model is how many ways can I have a person say yes to my products or services? We need it to be easy for them to say yes. Okay. But second to that, you don't need to address all these, but you need to know what they are. So the next one is, we have different levels of clients. So we have beginner clients, we have intermediate clients, and we have advanced clients. So people are at different stages of their knowledge of what you're there for. Like I see Mark there as a website designer. He must get some people come along and have absolutely no idea of the internet, no idea of graphics, and say, I need you to do 100% of everything for me, okay? You have other people come along and go, I'm a graphic designer, I'll supply the graphics, I just want you to do all the web stuff, okay? Beginner, intermediate, advanced. In other words, your pricing model needs to take into account those 3 different kinds of people. One that needs lots of support to someone who's actually happy to come along and help, okay? So beginner, intermediate, advanced. And the last one in the matrix is which is the same SML as on the other side, but this stands for short, mid, and long-term clients, all different pricing, okay? So a short-term client is someone you might, very transactional, this is the one transaction, you know, and if I go to long-term, this might be a relationship we're gonna have for 5 or 10 years, okay? So what's the pricing for someone with short, mid, and long-term objectives, okay? Yeah, so here you've got large, advanced, long-term. It might be a matrix that goes that way. You might have small, beginner, and short-term clients. So like I said, if you do a 3 by 3 by 3 model, there's 27 prices. So you don't have to have 27 prices. That's not the point. The point is you need a bunch of prices, whether it's 3 or 5 or 6, you need a bunch of prices that allow people to say yes. So you yourself may not want the advanced people, so you can take that out of the equation. You know, I want this level for this long, and that's how I want to run my business. Does that make sense? Okay. Like even cars do the same thing. A lot of the performance divisions of Ford is in with Ford Company. It's done by an external company. So when it comes to advanced performance users, they outsource that. Okay, it's done by other people, right? Or in Australia it is anyway. So you can choose who it is you want. You might not want the beginners. You might want people who seem to know what they're doing and they're business people rather than just the bottom line consumers that don't have any idea, because that's not your target market. So you choose your matrix. The point is, if you can set the price, a lot of it's done. Second to that, there's 2 other things that set the price, okay? Before I go any further, hands up with any questions on that matrix. As you can see, all the companies do it in their own way. I can't see the chat. If there's any chat or any hand up, just let us know.
Nothing in it.
Nothing in the chat.
Good. The second way we set the price is what's called a low point in business. And low point, if you're a solopreneur and you're working from home, the low point's not as important as if you're in manufacturing or retail or hospitality and those sorts of things. But I'll give it to you anyway. Okay. So the second way, so there's one way. The second way is what we call the low point. Now I may need to just quickly use this side, the low point. So in business, there's what's called a low point in business. Okay, so let's imagine, I'm just going to use some round figures here. And this is more to do with a company than someone that's $100,000 a year turnover. I'll just go to someone with $1 million a year turnover. Okay, so this is, you know, if you're turning over $100,000 a year, you're still at the same situation. And if you're turning over $10 million a year, nothing's changed. Okay, everyone has a low point in business. Okay, so the low point is, so this whole section here is filled with labor. Okay, so like I said, if you're a solopreneur, it's just how much you charge yourself. But if you've got a team of 2 or 3 or 10 or 50 people, labor is a cost of your business. Okay, so whatever that cost is here is a cost in the business. And if you're turning over $1 million, it could be $500,000 a year in payroll that you're paying. Okay, could be 400,000, could be 600,000. Each business is different. Okay, but what is that? Businesses need to know that. The second point is what's called overheads. What are your fixed overheads? What's your rent? Okay, machinery costs, equipment costs, internet, software costs. What are all your overheads? Somewhere on the line here, there's a cost here for your overheads. Okay, how much is that costing you? Okay, and typically they're the two people most people budget for. Okay, and the last one is what we call wastage, which is what most people don't account for. Now, hopefully it's very minimal wastage. Hopefully wastage is not a big number, but nonetheless, every business has wastage. All right, there's, as a manufacturing company, there's material you buy that you can't on-sell, offcuts, things like that. In a restaurant, there's food you didn't sell. Okay, in a grocery store, there's stuff that goes out the back door. All right, there's wastage in labor, there's wastage in product, there's wastage everywhere. Even owning, if you go into everyone's businesses, everyone has wastage. You know, so software you're subscribing to that no one uses. What's all that wastage that you've got in your business? What that draws then is what we call the low point. That there is your low point in business. So if you're turning over $1 million a year, that is $600,000. Okay, that means your profit is everything above that, $400,000. So with pricing though, some people do this. The $600,000 is what they turn over, okay, and it's also what's costing their business. So when it comes to pricing, okay, you have to decide, that's the low point, what's fair and equitable profit margins for the business to make. And that then determines your pricing. So if you're turning over 1,000 products a year or 10,000 products a year, whatever that is, how much does that need to be? What's the margin on top? If you can't get a margin out of what you're selling as far as your labor, your products and your wastage and things like that, well, then there's no profit in the business. So you have to work out what that is. So $600,000, if you're turning over $800,000, you've got a $200,000 year profit. Does that make sense? And like I said, if this is $100,000, it might be $60,000 in expenses and $40,000 profit. And if you're working really hard for $40,000 a year, you probably need to look at your pricing. Okay, we want you to get paid more. But what's that low point? And it's easy to do. Go into all your figures from last year and have a look what the low point was from last year, and then you can establish your pricing from there. Okay. Jeanette asked, can the labor be what you outsource to get down versus doing it yourself? Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that labor cost, you're going to work it out. Okay. So if you're being paid $10,000 to do a project and you outsource $2,000 worth of labor, it's still part of your labor costs. Just because they're not working for you as part of your internal team, they're your external team, it's still a labor cost to get the job done. Okay. So look at your figures from last year and you can work that out quite easily. Okay. But the worst one you can have is this low point is actually higher than your turnover. So if you've got a low point that's like this, it's costing you $600,000 a year to run the business, but you're only turning over $500,000, you've got a big problem. Okay, something out there is not right. And as a company owner, I did receive letters from people who went broke and they didn't have their low point set right. They were operating below what they were turning over, and they actually went broke, which isn't a good thing to do, right? No one wants to go broke. Everyone got into business and wants to be in business to succeed. So know what your low point is. Okay, so let's go next.
Can I ask
So
a
2 is the low
question?
point.
Sorry. I'll just type it in. I was just wondering if you're starting a new business,
Yep.
how do you work that out?
I just have to guess it. That's where it comes down to business planning.
So, okay. So you don't have like a minimum that you would recommend, or?
Well, you haven't got anything historical, so you're just going to have to guess and estimate what it would be and then work to that budget.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where it just comes down to that, having a look at what I call the CAN analysis, conditions, actions, needs, what's happening, what's doing, what do I need for labor? Okay. If I need 2 people, it's going to be $100,000 or $150,000. So there's my labor, and what do I need for software? And all of a sudden I've got a $200,000 worth of expenses before I've paid myself. Okay.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden I have a benchmark of $200,000 to $300,000 as a low point. And if I'm going to try and get 50 clients for $300,000, there's my pricing. If I'm, say, a website designer, I need to average, what is that, $6,000 a website? If I'm not pricing websites at more than $6,000, I'm not going to make any money.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
I need to provide value for that $6,000. I'll just use Mark as an example because he's a website designer. Okay. So it doesn't matter what business it is. So whether you're in construction or whether you're, if it's a $50,000 transaction or a $5,000 transaction, the process is the same. So, which leads me to the last one, which is 3. And that's what I call, and that stands for ME, which is market expectation. So what I mean is, if I'm going to start a coffee shop, I can't just start selling $10 coffees unless the $10 coffees are something special. The market expectation's been set. I have no choice with pricing. Okay. Like I look at these books and I sell them for $27.50. Do you know why? Because that's how much everyone else sells their books for. So I have a market expectation that the books are going to be $27.50. If you ask me, I've got $1,000 worth of information in here. I can't believe I sell them for only $27.50. But if I was to try and put $1,000 on this book, guess what would happen? There'd be no one buying them. So there is market expectations, which leads you to, if you look at the market expectations, so let's look at your 3x3 model. You get a low point, market expectation. With that combination, you should have some pretty good ballpark as to what your pricing can be. Okay, let's say you start off with a price, you pluck it out of the sky, and you want to sell $10,000 or $20,000 websites, to use Mark as an example. Okay, you can then look at all this and go, will this work as a business? Okay, and if you think it will, do. If you don't think it will, you then need to look at adjusting that business model. Okay, so how am I going to make that work? So once you've done all that, you've then got a pretty good pricing model, and hopefully you've set the right price. I cannot tell you, nor can your friends, nor can a business advisor. Very few people can tell you exactly what the right price is. Okay, very few people are going to be able to say, hey, that's the right price. The market will tell you if it's the right price. Does that make sense? The market will tell you if it's the right price. Yep. We're going to ask a question then, Joe?
No, I was just going to say that's changeable all the time too, isn't it? So.
And you do.
Yeah.
So and all of a sudden you can change your product based around, okay, well, look, I'm getting lots of these little sales. I now need to increase the price. I'll also target it towards the more, intermediate buyer or advanced buyer, more long-term, and you can start to ebb and flow your demand. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Or start to put on other specialties that go with it that allow you to do, for want of a better word, price creep. So however that's going to be. What else are you doing that's special that makes it more valuable for someone to buy, which is what we're going to get into next. Okay. But basically, setting the right price is something that's very subjective. To give you a personal example, I sometimes get people to ask me legal advice. I charge more than solicitors to do business advice. It's cheaper for them to go and talk to a solicitor than it is to ask me to read their business contracts. Does that make sense? It's actually cheaper. I charge twice as much as a solicitor. I charge about as much as a barrister to do business advice. And I go, well, look, why don't you just go see the solicitor? It's like half the price. Because that's what I feel I'm valued at. And I know I deliver that value. Does that make sense? The market will tell you if it's worth it. And why do people pay me what they pay me? It's because they do get that value back out of that hour or two of consultation in return. If they didn't, I couldn't charge that kind of money. Okay, so it's the market will tell you what the price is, whether it's right or wrong or indifferent. Okay, not us. But if you come up with that price, you know, so let's say I was charging what I charge, and all of a sudden there was people lining up at the front door. What would I do? I'd change the price and go, well, you know, I now need to lift it up a bit more. If I had no clients at all, I would then go, okay, well, now I'm too dear. I have to now lower the price to meet the market. Does that make sense? Or change the business model or get out of that business because it's not working. But if it's working, I then have to, as I think you said, Joe, ebb and flow.
Mhm.
You need to massage that price to get the price model right. And that's the thing with business maturity. That can take 2, 3, 4 years to get that formula. So it's actually working. You're getting above your low point. You're starting to make good profits and you're starting to succeed. When you first start a business in the startup world, you don't know what that is necessarily until you create some momentum. But if you've got momentum and you're looking at scaling your business, the same 3 things apply. What's this? What's this? What's this? And then you can take the business to the next level at all times. So setting the right price is essential. It's essential to success. Leading in mind here that you're answering when people have problems, when there's hotspots, there's wants, desires, and then when there's a need, fulfilling needs, motivating people to buy, you know, whenever they don't want to buy or it's not a problem. So how do we fulfill that need? Okay. And if you can do that, mixed around the right price, you're actually on the home run of what should be a relatively good business. There's only one thing missing now, which is action. Actually going out and talking to people and trying to make that business work. So that's a bit of a rough, elevated crash course or introduction on setting the right price. So anyone got any questions on that before I move on to the next bit?
Nope.
Not necessarily a question. Scotty, this has been really invaluable to take what you said, the product or the service with those pain, want, needs, and look at it and go, okay, now what's a pain that could happen with this service? Like, why would somebody need this? And therefore you then have a sentence to be able to use to them. Like, it's almost reverse engineering to, I've got what I've got to my products and services. Okay, if somebody, to be able to identify what a pain, it's almost brainstorming. Okay, what would be the pains connected to this service that this person would need this service? What would be the wants? Even though it's the same product and service, what would be the want that this person would want it? What would be the need that this person would want it? Even though it's the same thing, it's, I love this. I like fireworks over here in Canada on this side of the world, my friend.
You're right. And Jeanette, it's clarity around that conversation. It's 100% clarity around that conversation, which is selling the value, which is the next bit. So if you can identify what that is, now you can practice what the conversation is to the clients as to why they should actually buy the product, which is the value. And that is system 6. I think I said it earlier, page 82 of this book. Okay. Sell more, make more, or the make more, do less. Okay. System 6, all right. Page 82. And that is what I call so what. Okay. So you've got a product or service. Well, so what? You know, why is it good? What's it do? What's the pain point? What's the problems it solves? How do I create a want? How do I find people's hotspots and motivation for buying it? And when it's not a problem. And what about how do I fulfill needs? So it's not a hotspot or a pain, you know, but how do I create a need? How do I create some excitement about the product? Okay. You've got a product, so what? Okay. I'm not picking on Mark, but I know Mark's got a web design business and I had one too. So I'm just using that because I can relate to it a little bit better. Okay. So, but you know, like, you know, Mark's got a website design business. I had one. So what? So I had to create a specialty. I had to go out to the market. I had to provide, you know, more than just a website. I had to do all those things, or else I was just a website designer like everyone else. And how many website designers are there in the world?
Millions.
I reckon there's a lot. Couldn't even put a figure on it. So I'm a website designer, so what? So I had to come up with why I was better and different. And I ended up specializing in the real estate industry, which some of you know. Okay, the rest is history. But what did I do? How did I do that? Well, in particular, the system I used for the so what was I used a system called FAB, Feature, Advantage, and Benefit, okay, which is actually a whole chapter in the book as well. And I also used WIFM, okay, which is what's in it for me. So every single buyer out there wants to know what's in it for me. They've got it written across the top of their head. Every time you're talking to someone about your businesses, your products, your services, written right across the top of their head is what's in this for me? Why? Is this going to solve a problem? Is it going to make me feel better? You know, or is it going to fulfill a need in the future? Save me some time later or something like that. Okay. So what's in it for me? So what, you're a website designer? You know, so what? I'm the same now. I mean, I do coaching and mentoring and educating and things like that. And so what? You know, I can go online and watch YouTube, can't I? Well, of course you can. But I help the forest and trees come together. So when it comes time for you to use it, you know how to implement things in your business. Okay. That's the so what around being an educator, like Andrew's getting into now as a business coach and trainer and mentor. So that's get into the so what. So feature, advantage, and benefit. Has anyone heard of that before? I know some of you come to my workshops, and I know we see Jeanette, yep, you're nodding yes. Feature, advantage, benefit. I don't have time to get in that into detail, but I do want to explain what the difference is between feature, advantage, and benefit. So I've got to sell value. I'll just put a quick FAB here. FAB, feature, advantage, benefit. It's really good to be feature rich with all your products. And the story I put in the book was, I went into the Harvey Norman, which is a local electrical store, way back in the early days, and I was looking for what's called a PDA, a personal digital assistant. And I said to the guy that was the Harvey Norman guy, I said, oh, look, you know, can you tell me a bit more about the PDAs? And up beside every PDA was the bit of cardboard that had all the details on it, okay? Little tick points, the features about each one, right? And I'm looking at all these different ones at the time, and I'm thinking, oh man, there's like a dozen of them or whatever there was. There was a whole wall of them. And I thought, I don't know, there was $300 to $1,000. So which one's good for me? I'm not sure. I don't want to buy 10 of them. I just want one. So there was color screens, there was black and white screens, there was ones that opened up, there was big ones, small ones, some with longer life batteries, some with more RAM and processing speed. You know, it was all different. So I said to the salesperson, I said, look, I don't know much about the PDAs, but I want one. Can you tell me a little bit more about them? And what he began to do, he began to read out all the cardboard things that I was looking at with him. And he's reading out all the points. And I thought, oh, the guy must have misunderstood me. He must have thought I said, oh, look, I can't read. I need you to read out all the cardboard things for me. It wasn't what I wanted, right? What I wanted him to do was go, okay, well, you know, you got your A, your B, your C. Let's go here. You got your small, your medium, and large. You got your beginner, your intermediate, advanced. Does that make sense? And the one that I think this one's really good value because $600, what it'll mean for you is this. And this one here for $7, it's the latest model, supersedes that model over there for $300. You know, but it didn't do any of that sort of advantage and benefit conversation. He was feature rich, which was great, but I could read all the features. They were written on the walls. Okay. What I wanted to know was his expert opinion of why a product in that range was going to be good for me. Does that make sense? That's what I wanted him to do. So when people come and ask you, how much is something, or can you tell me about your products and services? Assuming you've set the right price and you've got some options for them, in other words, you've got multiple ways for someone to say yes, you only have one job to do, and that's sell the value. It was explained to them why it's going to be good to them. And that system is FAB, which is, like I said, it's in here. So what? Go straight into FAB. In fact, the whole book's about presentations, but that's another story. FAB, so feature. So features are easy to see. We could all see features. So use the PDA example, and PDAs were before smartphones. You know, it's just one of the functions. Just one of the functions inside a smartphone nowadays is our contact database. Well, that's what a PDA was. Essentially, it was a personal digital assistant, and all it did was store business cards in it electronically. Seems pretty elementary today, but at the time it was really good. So easy to see the features. Now, what advantages are? Advantages are, what's the advantage of the feature itself? So what's the advantage of it having longer battery life? What's the advantage of having a color screen? What's the advantage of having a black and white screen? What's the advantage of having the latest model? That's the advantage of the feature itself, okay? The benefit, which is the most important one, and the one that most people, I'm going to say, and I'm going to suggest, miss, is what's the benefit to me as the buyer? Okay, so there's the feature, okay? In the book, I talk about selling pens, so I'll do the feature of this pen. You know, the feature is it's a black pen, whiteboard marker. That's what this is, pretty obvious, people can see it. What's the advantage of it being black? Is that it's really easy for writing on a whiteboard for the writing to stand out. So that's the advantage of the black. What's the benefit to me as the buyer of a black pen when it's good on the board? It's so when I do presentations, my participants can see the board in the background easier. Does that make sense? Features black, advantage is the black looks good on the white. The benefit to me is that it makes it better for my participants to see the board. My message gets across better. That's the one that most people miss. What's the benefit? What's the benefit to the person themselves? You know, remember I said to you that every buyer has this thing across the top of their head? It says, what's in it for me? So we spend our time writing down, making lists of what's in it for me. In other words, what's in it for them. Okay. Now, most people think people buy off price. And while price is a motivator, don't get me wrong, most people buy off price. Most people buy off value of the price. In other words, most people buy the value is good for them. So it motivates them to go, I want or need this right now. It's not a pain, but I want or need this right now. I'm going to do it. I do have a workbook, by the way, and in that workbook, you said, Jeanette, make a list. So in the workbook, which is free to download, okay, there's this system here, and one of the things there is to make your own feature, advantage, benefit, and to turn that into a sentence. So it becomes part of your vocabulary, part of your DNA, to actually say things with feature, advantage, and benefit. In other words, you can become feature rich, create your sentences so people understand what the products are better, so your message gets across, and you have to do less so you can achieve more and ultimately get paid more. Okay. In fact, I used FAB for the key takeaways on this. Okay. So if we set the right price, we can sell the value of the product, meaning you get paid more. That is FAB on the secrets of pricing. Did you like that?
Yeah.
Easy monkey do, right? You can use FAB everywhere. Okay, here's the secrets of pricing. So if we set the right price, we can sell the value of the product, which is the advantage. What's the benefit? You get paid more. Okay, that's FAB on what we're doing today. And really, that's all. What's now 2:48. So that's, look, I could talk for hours and hours on it. And the next part of this would be we actually go in and we do some role play, we do some practice, and we do look at our pricing. We do look at your products. We look at what some of this is. Low point you'll have to do on your own. In fact, you won't find that in a book anywhere. I haven't put that in a book yet. These are some of the secret things I still do when I do my educating and mentoring with people. And obviously, I don't know what the market expectation is with everything that you do. Only you know that. Like I said, I have to sell these at $27.50, and because I have to sell them at $27.50. I can't change that. I could do them at 20. I could probably even get away with 30, but I certainly couldn't charge $1,000, which is what I think they're worth. I mean, it takes, 1,000 hours to write this book, and I get $27.50 for it. I think it's ludicrous, to tell you the truth. But there's a market expectation. I can't start selling $100 coffees, can I? It's just not going to work. No matter how good I am at a coffee maker, coffees are $5 at the coffee shop. Okay?
I can tell you about a bloke who would help you there, Scotty. You'd have to talk to him and find out. You'd have to talk to him and find out how to sell more.
Yeah, I just wish I just wish, actually, you know what I did do though, is, I do have a package now. So to give you the example, I do these packages, which you've seen, by the way. So Joe, you're all over this.
Yep.
So I do the training packages now. So as a training package, people can buy the workbook, the book, and the deck of cards. Where's the deck of cards? And the deck of cards. So there's a package. Does that make sense? So if I use my same answer, Joe, so what? I've written a book. So what?
That's right. So
Well,
what?
there's a deck of cards. Okay, that took another couple hundred hours to make. All right. There's a workbook, which took another 100 hours to make. But as a package now, it's $100. Or if you want it in full color, $140. So what? I wrote a book. But people want to know. People want to be able to learn more easily. They want to be able to review. They want to be able to take their own notes. So I fulfilled needs. Does it make sense? It's not a pain.
And you also did small, medium, large. Get the workbook small.
You got
it. Get the 2 of them medium. Get all of them. That's a large.
You got it. I mean, it's a pretty simple formula. Does that mean I sell every person I meet? No. If people don't have one of these 3, there's no business between us. Okay. So I the other day we had a fair. I'll call it a fair, or we call it the chili festival. So we had a festival, and the main street of Sawtell was closed the other day. And I put up a stand out the front. And on that stand, I had my books and I had my cards and everything set up. Okay. I've never done that before. I'm just going to sit out the front of my shop. There's like 5,000 people come past. Obviously, not all of them come past, but 5,000 people attend. I'm going to sit out the front and just see who might be interested. And I'm doing my can analysis now and looking at this of all the people walking past. And I reckon the market opportunity for me in that 5,000 people must have been lucky to have been 1%. These are really only for.
Sorry, I cut out a bit there, Scotty. Just repeat that.
I said, I reckon my market opportunity for the people walking past must have been only about 1%. Because the people walking past weren't necessarily in business. There was a lot of employees, unemployed, people that aren't trying to be entrepreneurs, people aren't trying to grow a business. So the only people are going to read these is that. So by doing this, it means I can position myself properly in the right place. So as an experiment the other day, I did it and I realized there's only 1% potentially. I'm better off going to networking events than sitting out the front here, okay, with 5,000 people who aren't interested, which leads me to another subject, but I won't get into that. So hopefully that's been really good for you. Okay, so we're just about finished. I'll let Andrew do a wrap up. But we wanted to get into the right pricing. So I've given you 3 ideas there with pricing that you can do to look at your pricing to get yourself the right price. Okay, seller value, the system there is FAB. I've introduced you to WIFM and FAB. And if you can get that right, there's every chance if you follow through with the action, set your goals, go and do whatever you need to do, get that burning desire. There's every chance you can go out and succeed and get paid more in whatever it is that you do. So that's the cue. So you got 7 minutes, Andrew. I could talk all day, but I have to stay on time.
No, thank you. Yeah, I hope everyone got something out of that. I do want to do a wrap up today. Something we do with these learnings is it's called the R2A2 model. And the first thing is, what can you recognize from today in your business that you've learned? So something you've learned today that you recognize. And you can make down a note, write this down, have a think about it. And how does that relate? So what does it mean? What does it mean to you? How can you relate it to your business? And then assimilate. So how can you use it? So have a think about what it is that's been relatable, that you recognize, that's relatable, and that you can use. And action, when can you use it? So what you've learned today, what you take away, when can you actually apply it into your business? So have a think about that, make some notes. And yeah, I think that's, unless anyone else has got any questions about today. Any final questions?
No, I was just wondering if in the chat you could put the link, Scotty, to your web page and things like that, especially for Jenny, because There's a lot of wonderful little videos.
I might shoot out an email as a follow-up.
Okay.
I'll shoot out an email as a follow-up, and then I can you can have it directly in your email because the chat might disappear. So good idea. Thanks,
sure.
Joe. I'll do that for you. So I'll send everyone an email as the link so they can follow through and do whatever they need to do. Now, I might quickly summarize these and where they are in the books too, so you can go and find them.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Scotty.
Next week, by the way, people are already booking into the next one. Okay. So if you are interested in next week, it's writing highly effective messages. It's something that we do every day, just like we all drive a car, but very few of us ever think about getting lessons. In business, we're writing emails, we're in chat groups, we're writing direct messages, we're messaging people all day, every day. And there's some really good, simple systems that we can follow to make those messages more effective. All right. Some people are using AI, and you can pick the AI messages already because they all sound.
I'm not an AI language model.
I'm not talking about spell check and autocorrect. I'm a fan of that because I have to use them. But when I write on a bit of paper, I'm disappointed it doesn't have a red squiggly line on a bit of paper nowadays. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually how genuinely to write effective, highly effective messages, whether it's email, direct messages, chat groups, social media, text messages. We're doing them all day, and there's ways that you can do that and win to get your message across. So people are already booking in. So if you can book into that next week, it's another free one. I'm not sure if we'll do any more after that, but Andrew and I decided to give some back to the community here and provide some free courses as part of Andrew's certification for System 1357 as a certified coach. So this is my business judo, if you like, in teaching and training Andrew on what it's like to run these workshops.
And Jeanette, next week's or the 1st of August, the time, it's a bit kinder to you.
What time will it be?
It's 11 to 12, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. 1st of August.
That's 3 hours earlier.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So it'll be 6 p.m. instead of 9 p.m. That means you may see a beer in my hand during class.
It'll be beer.
Canadian beer. Now we're talking. All right. Well, Andrew, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else you'd like to do as a quick review yourself?
I think that's it. Unless anyone else has got any other questions, I'll do some follow-ups with everyone, get some feedback on how this went, what you thought, and we'll go from there.
Sweet. So everyone, just a reminder, do yourself a favor, read the book and actually use it. Do the worksheets, make your own worksheets. You don't have to use mine. Mind you, they're free anyway, so you can use mine. Do the worksheets. It's not a test. It's about you, and I think Jeanette said it earlier perfectly. It's about you practicing and writing down what you say and do. So when it's time to use that, you actually know what to say, do, and when. And that's what practice is all about. So on that note, Andrew, if there's nothing else to say, we might wrap up. And if anyone wants to register for the next one, it's definitely up there on there for you to register. And there is already people registered for it. So
great. So you're sending out the link.
Thank you, Andrew and Scotty.
No worries.
Thank you.
Will the link in
Thank
your
you.
email that you're sending
Thank
out?
you
We'll talk
so
soon.
much.
I'll hang around
Thanks,
in case
guys.
anyone wants to ask any more questions, but everyone that needs to leave, we're right on time. So thanks everyone for coming.
All right. Thanks.
Cheers,
Bye,
guys.
Scotty.
Thank you. Bye.